One time they moved me and they said, "You guys take these foxholes here." When I got to my foxhole, had one of my friends dead in it. And a sniper had killed him. During the battle, I remember see some Germans in boxcars, and my people were using bazookas on them. Every time they would hit one with a bazooka and set it afire, Germans would fall out, and the people with small arms would kill them. In battle, your mind wanders in a lot of ways. Hard to determine exactly how you feel, but I wasn't really afraid to start in the battle in the beginning. But after I've seen all these friends of mine dead, I've become a little frightened, you know. Killed 32 of my men, my friends, that day. Pretty serious.
Before we get into the video, I want to share a special message from Mr. Martin, and hopefully you guys can help his dream come true.
Thank you for watching my video. I've written a book about my early life titled Butler County Memories. I would really appreciate it if you would consider purchasing the book. It can be found on Amazon. You can purchase it from me directly and get a signed copy. Yeah. Please look in the description for more information. My dream is to become a best-selling author. I want to sell 10,000 copies of this book. I want people to know what life was like growing up in Kentucky during the Great Depression. I don't want to be forgotten.
I have read the book and it's a great one, and I really would encourage anyone watching to support Mr. Martin and purchase a copy of his book. It would mean the world to him. Please send Mr. Martin a letter to thank him for his service and his dedication to this country. It would mean a lot to him. On a side note, Remember WWII is working on a special project that requires an iOS developer. If anyone watching is interested in World War II veterans and happens to have that expertise, please reach out on our website or at the email above. Thank you. This production was made possible through the generosity of the Stanley W. Eskram Foundation. Thank you so much for believing in this mission.
My name is Elmo Lincoln Martin. I was born in Bowling Green, Kentucky, October the 10th, 1920. We had no electricity at all, no phones, no newspapers. Didn't learn a great deal except when I went to school. Yeah. Now I love to go to school. If I'd done something wrong and my parents wanted to correct me, they would keep me home from school one day. And I thought that was terrible. Miss all my friends and so forth at school.
When you and your buddies were growing up, you know, when you were kids, what kind of things did you do for fun?
Well, we were great hunters. We liked to go hunting, had friends that were sharpshooters, and we liked to do that. And of course, we could play a little ball when we went to school with a slat from a page wire fence. We'd use it for a bat and a ball of yarn for a ball, and we'd play ball that way in school. Hide and go seek was a great game that we played when we went to school. They drafted me in the service, so they drafted me in the service. I believe they sent me up to Indianapolis, and they caught the train and took me down to 99th Infantry Division in Mississippi. Yeah, and I was there for a couple of years, I guess. No, for a year, and then we moved over to Camp Maxey, Texas. And we were over there for a while, and from Camp Maxey, Texas. When it come time to go overseas, they sent us up to Massachusetts, one of the campsites up there, and we got on a boat and sailed over to Scotland. They deported us in Scotland, and from Scotland we took the train down to London. From London we took the boat over to South France, and we got trucks and they drove us up to the front line from that quick. Right next to the Siegfried line we were, yeah. So that's how I got there, yeah. Now, when I got there, they assign you your duties. My job was what we call the outpost in the Army. It's I'll take you and your people about a half a mile or something like that out in front of your people, out in front of the enemy. So they kept me out there for about a month. It was a dangerous place. I didn't realize how dangerous it was. The war was kind of stalemated at that time. I didn't realize how dangerous it was, but it was very dangerous. I was lucky that they moved me before they made the breakthrough. Now, I was on the front line there for about a month. They killed my captain. He got killed. Little patrol out and run into they were going to get rid of a German machine gun nest, they call it. But they killed him. I saw him dragging the party back. But I was a little scared about being out there. Fragmentation grenade is a war instrument that you pull the pin and throw it. Deadly thing. I thought, well, why don't I fix up a trap for the enemy if he comes here? Take one of those fragmentation grenades, tape it to the tree, tie a wire around the pin that explodes it, and if the Germans come by, they'll trip themselves and get killed. Well, you can't guess who tripped it first. Elmo Lincoln Martin. It tripped, it was on a tree about this big, and it blew that tree right down. I had to keep rolling away from it in order to stay alive. Tree was going to fall on me. But that was just one of the things that happened to me in the war, yeah. So we were taken off of the front line around, I guess, about the 11th of December. We'd been up there a month, about the 11th of December, and they took us back in reserve. Infantry people have 3 regiments, 2 up front and 1 in reserve. We got into reserve, and we moved it back a few miles from the front line. We thought we were safe back there. No battles had been big or anything, but it was an old railroad station, Buckhole Station. And I had on the first floor, I had a room with the rest of the guys, sleep together, in the same room, find a place to make you comfortable. Buckhole Station, it wasn't really the name. GIs who'd been through there before named it that, gone by that ever since. Yeah. Now on the 16th, it was a foggy morning, and we were fixing to have the chow wagon was coming up for breakfast. and we were going to invite some of K Company's people over to join us in having breakfast. Well, my Sergeant Elmer P. Klug was up in the front, up in the attic, or second floor of that building, and he saw that mentioned it was foggy. The fog was starting to lift a little, and he was looking out the window, and he saw a guy coming down toward our location. He thought it was a K guy coming for dinner till he got right close to him. It turned out to be a German soldier, so he shot him. Once the gun started, the battle was on. Yeah, I just grabbed your gun. I had a group of men, but I didn't know where they were. They scattered everywhere. When I grabbed my gun and ran out, there was a log pile in the field there, and me and 3 other guys laid down behind the log pile, and the Germans were milling around from woods from one side, and when they'd come grouping across, we would shoot them, you know. We pretty much scared them to death, you know. 3 of us, and you know, those 8 rounds, and you could reload it and keep shooting. Well, they'd turn the machine gun on the log pile. They didn't like killing their people, you know. And the machine gun kept blazing at us. One of my guys said to me on the right side, he says, "Sergeant Martin, my leg shot off," he says. I could smell the wool where the hot bullet had been. And I looked over there and laying right by me. I said, "You got your leg, you're not shot off." He got to feeling around back there, and he pulled out his spoon. A mess spoon was kind of a big spoon in the Army. The bullet had, the belly of the spoon was here, and the bullet came right through it, creased it right off, slapped him in the butt, and they didn't think his leg was shot off. Well, that didn't stop us, so their machine gun didn't stop us either, so they started doing mortar. A mortar is a tube thing with a projectile, close range. And being a sergeant, I should have realized what was going on, but I didn't. I heard an explosion in the back, and I wondered what it was. They had generally, with that vessel, that power thing, you have to zero it in. One over, one short, one, and the third one goes in the middle. Yeah. And somebody was smarter than I was over in the woods, some of my guys. They said, "Run, Sergeant Martin, run." And we did. We jumped up and ran. Machine guns kicking up the snow and mud as we went. And we got there in time to watch the log pile go up in splinters. Just lucky, otherwise would have been killed. Yeah. And there was a young soldier had crawled in there. He had his helmet off, and it looked like a boy, and I didn't shoot him. I don't know if my 2 soldier friends knew he was under there. I don't know if they seen him or not. Anyway, I think he got killed because the mortar logs got blown up. I believe he was sent there as a scout, and he probably got frightened and crawled under the log pile for protection. He probably should have, if he'd have been a real soldier, he would have stayed up and looked for it. He'd have probably got shot anyway, like the rest of them that come close to us got shot, you know. Yeah. During the battle, I remember see some Germans in boxcars, and my people were using bazookas on them, Every time they would hit one with a bazooka and set it afire, Germans would fall out and the people with small arms would kill them. They were closer to me than the ones we were shooting at. It was on foot up there. They were about like a football. These were probably 150 yards, something like that. 100 yards, I guess.
And so they were just hanging. They were just in the boxcar.
Yeah, well, they were hiding in there. I don't know who they had talk about having bad leadership. I don't know, whoever their leader was told them don't get out of the boxcars. They could have got out and run somewhere, but they didn't do it. They stayed and got killed. Yeah. In battle, your mind wanders in a lot of ways. Hard to determine exactly how you feel, but I wasn't really afraid to start in the battle in the beginning. But after I seen all these friends of mine dead, I become a little frightened, you know. And I ran out of ammunition, and where I had my little bed in the house, and I fixed myself. Everybody fixed themselves a place to sleep. I was running out of ammunition. I didn't have much left, so I ran back to the house to pick up some. And a shell that came through the window and blew my little bed to splinters. Yeah, wasn't a bed anymore. Yeah. So, how lucky can you get, huh? I think the good Lord looked after me. Yeah, must be. Couldn't go through all of that. I wasn't. If people tell you you're not scared when you're in battle, you are. I wasn't scared for a good long time, but my worst fear was I'd get killed and be buried in that terrible country I was in, never get back home. That was my worst. I figured I was going to get killed. Yeah, killed 32 of my men, my friends, that day. Pretty serious. After I got back in the woods and went up in that area where the Germans had been going across, there was a soldier by the name of, anyway, I can't remember his name right now, but he had a dead German laying by him, and he says he could speak, he was from Chicago, and he could speak German. And the guy was wounded, probably from us three guys. It was same parallel. We'd probably wound him, and he would talk to him, get him to crawl over out of the field into the woods where he was. He says, I got him over here, and then I shot him so I could get his rifle. I said, pretty tough, yeah. Well, we had one other incident, might be interested. Had a guy in my group, the name of Smith, call him Smitty. He hated the Army so bad that the first thing he done when the battle started was run up there, says he was going to get wounded so he could go home. That machine gun that they had turned on us just cut him to pieces. Yeah. He got to go home, but not in good shape. Yeah, lost him. Yeah. We were ordered to leave the woods, go across railroad tracks, and take new positions over in the woods over there. So when I got there, the foxhole I was supposed to occupy had a friend of mine that had been killed by a sniper, and he was in the foxhole. Yeah. So in order to protect myself, I had to try and get him out of there, so they didn't want to stand on him, I believe he was shot by a sniper, a bullet to the head. Yeah, yeah. After I got in the foxhole, sniper fired a time or two at me. I heard the bullets whiz by. I fired a couple shots back, and I didn't hear from him anymore. He might have decided it was too hot there for him or something, you know. Yeah, but I didn't hear from him. But I didn't stay there very long. Moved us again. Yeah. Now after we got pushed out of that area, we'd stop in another area and dig holes. Hardly got dug in till they started to surround us again, and we had to leave the holes and go back further. Now, says just grab what's loose and run to the rear. My people done that. I was following my sergeant. I was following him. He says, we're running a straight line, and he says, come this way. I didn't follow him. For some reason, I don't know why. I thought, well, the enemy's on the left side, why go that way? So I went this way, to the right. He got captured. If I'd have followed him, I'd have been captured. But I was lucky I went that direction. I was somewhere in the middle of the line of guys that were running in that area. All of a sudden, they asked me if I'd come up and listen to what was going on. I went up to the front, and big line of soldiers marching right up and down the line. It's dark, and I wondered who they were. Are they Germans or are they Americans? All of a sudden, it was very quiet, but all of a sudden, one guy says to his other friend, he says, they scared the hell out of me. That's how I knew they were Americans. So we joined them, and then that's how I got back to Elsinborn Ridge. Elsinborn Ridge was the line that was used to stop them totally. You know, it took about 3 days for us to get to Elsinborn Ridge because everything was confused. The weather was terrible. When I got to Elsinborn Ridge, I hadn't slept for 3 days. And when I woke up, there were some officers, artillery people, looking for duds around my foxhole. And they said, they sure poured it on us last night, didn't they, Sergeant? I couldn't answer them because I hadn't heard a word of it. Didn't wake me up. I was pretty tired. You can understand 3 days without any sleep. Yeah. Well, one story I will never forget, that I had a friend, soldier, in the same foxhole with me on Elsinborn Ridge, and the artillery was falling, and he raised his head up too soon to see what was happening, and shrapnel killed him, hit him in the head. Yeah. Yeah, went through his helmet, hit him in the head. Yeah. Yeah, he was right next to me. Yeah, yeah. I called the medics to get him. They yelled for him. Yeah.
Do you remember anything about that soldier, where he was from? He was a replacement, right?
Well, I probably did at the time, but 81 years dulled that a little bit.
That's okay.
Yeah, but he was a nice man. I liked him, and I don't know if he was going to occupy the foxhole with me till we left. You never know. Things are such turmoil in battle. Yeah. Oh, one other incident, during one of our retreats, a supply truck had been blown up and blew cans of food all over. I picked up a can of frozen hash. It was frozen hard, but we used our bayonets to share it. Tasted good. I have hash now a lot. In my company were only two people, two soldiers from Kentucky, me and Robert Fields. Robert was like me. He had a wife and two little kids, but when I ran to him up in the woods, he says, "I'm going to try to get over there and destroy that machine gun nest." I says, "Bob, call in the artillery." He says, "I've already tried. The artillery's been surrounded and the Germans got it." So I says, "You shouldn't do that, Bob," but and the shells started to fall and we had to hide in something to protect ourselves. And I never seen him anymore after that. Yeah, but he was killed either that day or the next day. Yeah, and he was killed trying to take out the machine gun nest. I believe I was the last person he spoke to. Fine man. I don't know how you describe a person that and a great American. How's about that, huh? He loved his country. After we stalled the Germans, the first day, they was moving us across the railroad tracks to another position. Artillery started knocking tops of trees out, so I was looking for a place for shelter. There was a culvert there. I jumped under the culvert. It was full of water. I got all wet. Temperature was 10 degrees. Froze my ears, froze a lot of other parts of my body as well. And when we got back to Elsenborn Ridge, Lieutenant Brown says, "You better go and have those feet looked at, Elmo," you know. And they said, "You have no business, got to get you to the hospital or you're going to lose them," you know. Yeah. German artillery was blowing up the trees, you know. Yeah, you can't live in that very long, you know. Artillery is tough. Well, they sent me back to the little town, Elsenborn, had a station back there. Then they sent me to a hospital in France. Then they sent me, after it looks like I was going to keep them, over to England. Time we got back to Elsenborn Ridge, snow was foot deep, or heavier in some places, yeah. And cold, 10 above zero, most of it, yeah. Very cold. I was in a different position than other soldiers. I had a wife and two kids, and I was a sergeant, had special problems when you're leading men, you know, yeah.
Tell me about what was it like being on the front lines, having a family of your own, you know, you were their provider, you had to come back. What was that like, you know, fighting, having your, you know, your daughters and everything?
Well, it was difficult. It was difficult. Anytime you go off and leave people you love and think you're going to get killed, it's a pretty difficult decision, yeah. But I managed it somehow. My brother, he was in England at one time, and he was a kidder, kid everybody. You'd see the way he dresses, you know. He says, Elmo could come home if he wanted to. Made my Ruth so angry. I couldn't come home if it was just because I wanted to. It says, it'll take you out when your number comes up or something like that, you know, yeah. When I got home and met my family, it's the first time I'd seen my daughter Susie, and Sharon was growing up, and it was a very exciting time. Yeah, I think she would ask her mom when's Daddy coming home. I think Mom Ruth would tell me Sharon's drawing pictures of you or something or another, waiting for you to come home. Yeah, yeah. But some of those stuff, your feelings, is pretty hard to explain sometimes. You know, some people take it formally, don't make any difference. But I always thought it was important to take care of your family, love them, protect them. Yeah, that was my job. Yeah. I'm old and partial. I think the country should stay the way it is. I think the future generation should look backward a little and see how good the country's been and quit abusing it. They abuse it. And this young generation has got a lot of different ideas than what I have. Yeah.
What would you want to say to the men who were killed in the war? What would you want them to know?
Well, how do I want to say that? I sympathize for soldiers who gave their lives to defend their country. It's very noble, and not everybody should have some of that. Defend your country. No other country just like it. You know, we're the people who set the standard for decency, and they're getting so decency and life don't seem to matter too much. What do I want to give to the future generation?
Yeah, what wisdom, life advice?
Oh, as long as we have hope, tomorrow awaits. As long as we have love, everything is beautiful. As long as we have God, anything is possible. I want people in the world to be kind and honest, and I hope the world is a better place because I lived in it. Thank you for watching my video. I've written a book about my early life titled Butler County Memories. I would really appreciate it if you would consider purchasing the book. It can be found on Amazon. You can purchase it from me directly and get a signed copy. Yeah. Please look in the description for more information. My dream is to become a best-selling author. I want to sell 10,000 copies of this book. I want people to know what life was like growing up in Kentucky during the Great Depression. I don't want to be forgotten.
Just stay right there, please.
Stay right there.
Stay right there. You're going to have to stay there for the next 2 years till you turn 105. Give me a big smile, sir.